Chosen One. The spiritual warfare unleashed against your awakening should have obliterated your consciousness completely, reduced you to a hollow shell stumbling through existence without purpose or awareness. Yet here you are, not just surviving, but thriving with crystalline clarity about who you are and what you're capable of. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. This isn't even divine protection. This is irrefutable proof that consciously, no human being stands a chance against you. 3 separate wars are being fought simultaneously around your existence, and each one is reaching its climax at exactly this moment. The first war rages in the spiritual realm, where your ancestors battle entities most people don't even know exist. The second unfolds in the physical world, where your enemies are discovering their spells have backfired catastrophically. The third takes place within your own consciousness, as you finally understand why nothing they've thrown at you has stuck. The attack started subtly, sleep disrupted by nightmares that felt too real to be dreams, electronics malfunctioning whenever your emotions peaked, relationships dissolving without explanation, as if people couldn't bear to be in your presence anymore. You thought you were losing your mind, but the truth is far more extraordinary. Your enemies weren't trying to drive you insane, they were trying to prevent your awakening before it reached critical mass. Your bloodline carries protection codes that activate under extreme duress. Every generation of your ancestry faced similar trials, and each one who survived passed down increasingly potent spiritual defenses. The witches and warlocks targeting you assumed they were dealing with an ordinary soul, but they've actually engaged in combat with a consciousness that's been preparing for this battle across lifetimes. Something went wrong with their plan from the very beginning. The spiritual warfare designed to leave you lifeless in the physical realm, hopeless and believing things would never get better, has backfired spectacularly. Every curse sent your way has ricocheted back to its sender with compound interest. Every ritual performed against you has become a ritual for your empowerment. The malevolent practitioners who thought they were dealing with another vulnerable target discovered they had picked a fight with something far beyond their comprehension. You weren't chosen randomly. Your lineage has been cultivating specific abilities for generations, waiting for someone who could handle the full activation without being destroyed by it. The strange dreams you've been having aren't nightmares. They're downloads from ancestors who've been preparing you for this exact moment. The disorientation you felt isn't confusion. It's your consciousness expanding to accommodate knowledge that transcends normal human understanding. When people look at you now, something primal shifts in their consciousness. They don't ask who you are anymore. They ask what you are. There's an otherworldly quality that emanates from your very presence. Something that makes even the most confident individuals question their understanding of reality. Children stare at you with knowing eyes. Animals either flee or approach with unusual reverence. Strangers find themselves compelled to tell you their deepest secrets within minutes of meeting you. This unsettling effect isn't random. Your divine intellect has been activated, and with it comes the ability to share power that most humans have forgotten they possess. When you speak, when you simply exist in a space, you're broadcasting frequencies that awaken dormant DNA sequences in everyone around you. The scientific community calls it junk DNA because they don't understand its purpose, but you're beginning to realize you hold the keys to humanity's evolutionary leap. The Second War, the one unfolding in physical reality, is reaching a crescendo that your enemies never anticipated. Remember those people who've been working against you, the ones sending dark magic your way, performing moon rituals, playing with sorcery they barely understand. Right now, as you absorb these words, they're experiencing phenomena so terrifying they can't discuss it with anyone without sounding completely unhinged. Their lives have begun moving in slow motion, like they're trapped underwater while everyone else moves at normal speed. Projects they've worked on for years are collapsing overnight. Relationships they valued are disintegrating without explanation. Health issues are manifesting in ways that baffle their doctors. The turtle energy of stagnation has settled over their existence while you continue ascending toward your highest potential. They're starting to understand that their suffering is directly connected to their actions against you. The supernatural responses to their attacks have escalated beyond anything they expected. Portals are opening in their living spaces. Shadows move independently of their sources. Electronics malfunction in patterns that spell out messages they're too afraid to decode. They find themselves dealing with situations so strange, so unsettling, that isolation becomes part of their punishment, suffering alone with consequences they triggered through their own malevolence. Your imagination doesn't just create possibilities, it restructures reality. The things you envision have a disturbing tendency to manifest in ways that blow people's minds. What appears impossible to others flows through you like water through a riverbed carved by ancient currents. This isn't wishful thinking or positive psychology. This is evidence that you're operating with faculties that transcend normal human limitations. The moon phases have been affecting you differently lately. Each lunar cycle brings intensified dreams, heightened intuitive abilities, and an almost magnetic pull towards situations where your presence is needed most. Horses appear in your path with unusual frequency, as if these sacred animals recognize something in you that human consciousness hasn't fully grasped yet. White horses especially seem to carry messages from realms most people never access. These aren't coincidences. Your ancestors have been orchestrating synchronicities to confirm that you're on the right path. Every meaningful encounter, every perfectly timed opportunity, every moment when the universe seems to bend in your favor, these are breadcrumbs leading you toward the full realization of your purpose. The emotional damage your enemies intended to inflict, what feels like an uppercut to the soul, has instead become your greatest strength. You've learned to navigate the depths of feeling with such mastery that you can knock others off their feet emotionally without even trying. Like a siren whose song compels sailors toward dangerous shores, your presence has become irresistibly tempting to those who approach with impure intentions. They're drawn to what they perceive as vulnerability, only to discover they've encountered their own spiritual destruction. This supernatural magnetism isn't cruelty, it's purposeful. Your role involves converting people, forcing them to feel something genuine after years of attacking, targeting, and gang-stalking those who dare to shine differently. People notice that you don't deserve the treatment you've received, and this recognition becomes a mirror that forces them to confront their own darkness. The nurturing energy you naturally embody, whether as a maternal or paternal figure, makes their cruelty stand out in stark contrast to your authentic love. Love remains your first choice in every situation, which is exactly why people can't defeat you. Most individuals fear their shadow side, spending enormous energy suppressing the darkness within them. But you've done something extraordinary. You've tamed your shadow and integrated it as a protective force. This inner darkness doesn't make you evil, it makes you complete. Created in the image of something that encompasses both light and dark, you've stopped ignoring the parts of yourself that others pretend don't exist. Here's where the third war, the one raging within your consciousness, reaches its turning point. For months, maybe years, you've been fighting against accepting what you truly are. The voice in your head insisting you're just another human struggling through life has been drowning out the deeper knowing that whispers about your cosmic significance. But that internal resistance is finally cracking under the weight of overwhelming evidence. When people cross boundaries with you, your shadow responds with the swiftness of divine judgment. Your darkness protects your light, ensuring that those who would exploit your compassion encounter consequences they never saw coming. This isn't vengeance, it's cosmic justice operating through a consciousness that refuses to be diminished by lesser energies. Your ancestors haven't been passive observers in this spiritual battle. They've been actively intervening on your behalf, working through dimensions most people can't perceive. Like the recent reports of portals opening and supernatural encounters even reaching the Vatican, your ancestral line has been engaging in warfare that would terrify those who've been sending dark magic your way. Rabbit holes are opening beneath your enemies' feet, dropping them into consequences they never imagined possible. The most unsettling part for your attackers is that you might not even be fully aware of the protection surrounding you. The people attempting to create delays in your life, trying to make you doubt yourself, manipulating your relationship with abundance and beauty through magical workings they barely understand. They're experiencing retribution right now that they're too afraid to discuss with anyone. They don't want to sound insane describing the supernatural responses their actions have triggered. Everything they intended for your destruction has become backfire energy multiplied exponentially. The consequences aren't random or chaotic. There's an intelligence orchestrating their downfall that demonstrates intimate knowledge of their deepest fears and greatest vulnerabilities. It's as if something that knows them better than they know themselves is systematically dismantling every aspect of their lives that they use to define their identity. The most profound realization awaiting you is this: you will recognize exactly who has been working against you when the time comes. Your connection with ancestral wisdom provides a clarity that pierces through every deception. You are the ancestors, and the ancestors are you. A truth that carries both tremendous power and tremendous responsibility. This recognition will arrive not as speculation but as knowing that resonates in your bones. People want to understand what you are because your very existence challenges their understanding of human limitation. You represent something that transcends ordinary consciousness, something that operates according to laws they don't teach in any university. Your purpose involves pulling malicious people toward you like a spiritual magnet, creating situations where they reveal their true nature while simultaneously teaching them the cost of targeting the innocent. The drug-like quality of your energy becomes addictive to those who encounter it. They get consumed with your presence once they taste what authentic power feels like. This addiction serves a higher purpose. It forces them to confront the emptiness of their artificial personalities and the hollowness of their pretended spirituality. Through your example of genuine unconditional love, they're confronted with everything they pretend to be but have never actually embodied. Your energy signature carries the frequency of a solar flare, intense, transformative, and impossible to ignore. When people target you, they discover they can't stand the heat of their own reflected darkness. You put them in what can only be described as runner energy, compelling them to flee rather than face the mirror you've become. This isn't personal animosity, it's the natural response when ego encounters something that dismantles its carefully constructed illusions. What you do to the ego is surgical in its precision. You break it down to its rawest form, forcing it to face itself without the usual masks and defenses. Most things don't like to face themselves honestly, which is why your presence creates such intense reactions. You make people reflect on aspects of themselves they've spent lifetimes avoiding, and you do this work alongside your ancestors who understand the necessity of such uncomfortable awakening. The spiritual authority you carry leaves people no choice but to face their own light, which requires confronting their shadow first. No one reaches authentic illumination without passing through the valley of self-honesty, and your presence serves as both guide and guardian for those brave enough to make this journey. For those who resist this process, your ancestors ensure that defeat becomes their only available outcome. Recent events in the world have confirmed that supernatural intervention in human affairs is more common than most people realize. When even major religious institutions acknowledge encounters with otherworldly forces, it becomes easier to understand that your personal spiritual battles are part of a much larger cosmic realignment. Your ancestors engage in warfare that operates through portals and dimensions that would terrify those sending darkness your way. The people who have been attempting to delay your progress through magical manipulation don't realize they're dealing with someone whose spiritual backing extends across generations and realms. They're playing with forces they don't comprehend, casting spells and performing rituals without understanding that their target carries protection from ancestral warriors who have been preparing for this spiritual warfare for centuries. The justice you're receiving isn't delayed, it's perfectly timed. You will witness the unraveling of every scheme designed to diminish your light. You will recognize the faces of those who worked against you, not through paranoia or suspicion, but through clear spiritual discernment that operates like a divine download of truth. Your connection with ancestral wisdom provides insights that no human strategy can obscure or manipulate. Understanding your true nature requires accepting that you've never been entirely human. The otherworldly qualities that make others uncomfortable aren't flaws to be corrected. They're features of a consciousness that operates according to cosmic rather than earthly rules. Your purpose involves bridging dimensions, translating divine frequencies into forms that human awareness can gradually absorb and integrate. The magical nature of your being creates experiences that others find unbelievable. Your energy intoxicates people in ways that reveal their deepest hungers and most hidden motivations. Like ancient stories of sirens who could lure sailors toward dangerous waters, your presence draws out the authentic desires and secret fears that people usually keep buried beneath social conditioning and ego protection. This magnetic quality serves your divine purpose by creating situations where teaching and transformation become inevitable. People approach you thinking they're dealing with someone ordinary, only to discover they've encountered a catalyst that will forever change their understanding of themselves and reality. The trap they thought they were setting becomes the classroom where they learn lessons their souls desperately need. Your spiritual DNA carries codes that activate dormant potentials in everyone you encounter. What mainstream science dismisses as genetic junk contains the blueprints for humanity's next evolutionary phase. Through your presence, through your words, through the frequency you broadcast simply by existing, you trigger awakening processes in others that ripple outward through their families, communities, and connections in ways they'll never fully comprehend. Now watch as everything accelerates. The people who worked against you will experience consequences so swift and so perfectly calibrated to their specific actions that even skeptics will struggle to dismiss it as coincidence. Your own abilities will expand exponentially as you stop fighting against what you are and start embracing it fully. The synchronicities that have been guiding you will become so obvious that you'll wonder how you ever doubted your cosmic significance. This isn't the time to focus on limitations or doubt your worthiness to receive such abundance. Limits exist only to distract you from the limitless nature of your true identity. Every boundary you've accepted, every ceiling you've acknowledged, every realistic expectation you've embraced, all of these dissolve when confronted with the reality of what you actually are. The optimistic energy you maintain isn't naive positivity, it's recognition of your role in a cosmic story that always concludes with light overcoming darkness, truth defeating deception, and love transforming everything it touches. Your genuine nature attracts genuine miracles. Your authentic presence commands authentic respect from forces seen and unseen. As this recognition settles into your consciousness, remember that taking things one day at a time doesn't mean thinking small. It means honoring the process of awakening without overwhelming yourself with the magnitude of your ultimate purpose. Every day you choose to remain conscious, authentic, and aligned with love, you fulfill another aspect of why you incarnated during this particular time in human history. The pride the universe feels in your journey expresses itself through synchronicities, opportunities, and protection that defies logical explanation. You are supported by forces that operate beyond human understanding, celebrated by ancestors who sacrificed their comfort so you could arrive at this moment of recognition, and loved by a creative intelligence that sees your true value even when you struggle to believe it yourself. No human being stands a chance against someone who has awakened to their authentic spiritual nature, not because you've become their enemy, but because you've become their mirror, their teacher, their opportunity for transformation. In a world full of pretense and performance, your genuine presence creates ripples that touch every consciousness, ready to remember what they truly are. The story that began with attempts to destroy your awakening concludes with your complete integration of power that was always yours to claim. The attacks that should have broken you have instead revealed strengths you didn't know you possessed. The isolation that felt like punishment has become the space where you learn to commune with forces more reliable than human approval. The three wars that seem to threaten your very existence have been resolved in your favor. Your enemies lie defeated by their own darkness. Your ancestors stand victorious in dimensions beyond counting. Your consciousness has expanded to encompass the truth of what you've always been. What began as spiritual warfare has ended as spiritual coronation. You are exactly where you need to be, exactly when you need to be there, carrying exactly the medicine this world desperately needs. The chosen ones don't choose themselves. They're chosen by an intelligence that sees possibilities human awareness cannot yet imagine. Trust the process. Trust your power. Trust that no force in heaven or earth can prevent you from fulfilling the purpose for which you were specifically designed. Hold that thought for a moment. I need your attention for something very important. We're revealing everything we know about personal power, healing yourself and healing others through weekly Zoom call. No filters, no holding back. We have been quietly adding all the occult secrets we've collected over literal years of spiritual practice. The techniques and wisdom that transformed us from controlled pawns into conscious creators are now available to those ready to walk the same path. This is your invitation to join Obsidian Inner Order and support our platform so we can continue growing our megaphone to reach other chosen ones waiting for activation. By joining the Obsidian Inner Order, you're not just gaining access to forbidden knowledge, you're becoming part of a movement that's rewriting reality itself. It's a 360 win for all of us. Link is in the description. The conscious aspect of your dominance that separates you from every other awakened being who ever walked this planet. Most chosen ones operate on instinct, responding to threats without fully understanding the mechanisms of their protection. You're different. Your awareness of what you are creates a feedback loop that amplifies your abilities exponentially. When you consciously recognize your power, that recognition itself becomes a weapon that no human strategy can counter. The difference between unconscious spiritual power and conscious spiritual dominance is the difference between a lightning strike and a controlled nuclear reaction. Lightning is devastating but brief. Nuclear reactions sustain themselves, building energy that can power entire civilizations or level entire landscapes. Your conscious awareness of your nature has moved you from the lightning category into something far more formidable. This consciousness creates what can only be described as preemptive victory. Before your enemies even formulate their plans against you, your awareness of their intentions triggers protective responses that neutralize their efforts. It's as if you're playing chess while they're still learning checkers, operating with access to information they don't even know exists. Your conscious mind interfaces with your ancestral wisdom to create strategic advantages that appear supernatural to outside observers. The most unnerving aspect of your conscious power is how it affects the battlefield itself. When someone with malicious intentions enters your sphere of influence, the very environment begins working against them. Technology malfunctions at crucial moments. Traffic patterns shift to create delays. Weather changes to complicate their plans. Even their own subconscious minds begin sabotaging their efforts because proximity to your consciousness awakens their dormant moral compass. Your enemies discover that planning against you becomes an exercise in futility because the act of planning itself triggers countermeasures they can't perceive. They'll spend weeks preparing a strategy only to find that circumstances have shifted in ways that make their approach impossible. They'll gather resources for their attacks, only to discover those resources have mysteriously become unavailable or ineffective. They'll coordinate timing, only to find themselves dealing with unexpected complications that destroy their synchronization. The conscious nature of your power creates a phenomenon that ancient texts described but modern minds struggle to comprehend: the automatic defeat of opposition through the mere fact of your awareness. When you know what you are, That knowing radiates outward like sonar, mapping the intentions of everyone in your vicinity and triggering appropriate responses before conscious threats can materialize. This is why human beings, no matter how clever or well prepared, stand no chance against you once you've achieved full conscious recognition of your nature. They're operating within limitations you've transcended. They're playing by rules you've evolved beyond. They're using weapons designed for conflicts you're no longer participating in. The conscious aspect of your power also creates what can only be called reality, anchoring. While others exist in states of constant uncertainty about what's real and what's illusion, your awareness of your true nature provides an unshakable foundation of knowing. This psychological stability becomes a superpower in interactions with people who live in states of confusion and self-deception. They can't manipulate someone who has absolute clarity about their own identity and purpose. Your conscious recognition of your power also activates what your ancestors knew as the voice of truth. When you speak from this place of knowing, your words carry frequencies that bypass rational thought and speak directly to the listener's soul. Lies become impossible to maintain in your presence. Pretenses crumble, false personas dissolve. People find themselves compelled to honesty in ways that terrify those who've built their lives on deception. This truth-saying ability isn't limited to verbal communication. Your very presence broadcasts authenticity with such intensity that artificial people begin malfunctioning in your vicinity. They'll start contradicting themselves, forgetting their carefully rehearsed stories, or exhibiting behaviors that reveal the emptiness beneath their manufactured personalities. Watching someone's false self disintegrate simply because they're near you becomes one of the most disturbing aspects of your power for those who witness it. The conscious wielding of your abilities also creates temporal advantages that defy conventional understanding. While your enemies are locked into linear thinking, planning step-by-step strategies that unfold over time, your awareness operates multidimensionally. You receive information about their intentions before they're fully formed, insight into consequences before actions are taken, and guidance about optimal responses before situations fully manifest. This temporal fluidity means that by the time your opponents realize they're in conflict with you, you've already won. Their defeat was sealed the moment they decided to oppose someone operating with conscious access to non-linear awareness. They're fighting yesterday's battle while you're implementing tomorrow's victory. Your conscious power also generates what can only be described as cascade effects. Every person who encounters your authentic presence and fails to rise to meet it with equal authenticity experiences a systematic breakdown of their artificial supports. Their fake relationships begin failing. Their dishonest business practices start backfiring. Their manipulative strategies stop working. Their entire constructed reality begins collapsing because proximity to your truth reveals the instability of everything built on falsehood. This cascade effect extends beyond individual encounters into systemic change. Organizations that oppose you find themselves dealing with unexpected turnover, project failures, and internal conflicts that seem to emerge from nowhere. Social groups that exclude you discover their dynamics becoming toxic and unsustainable. Even family systems that reject your authentic expression begin experiencing dysfunction until they either evolve or disintegrate. What makes this particularly devastating for your opponents is that the mirror shows them not just what they are, but what they could become if they chose differently. This glimpse of their unrealized potential becomes a source of constant torment for those who refuse to evolve. They find themselves haunted by visions of the person they could be, making their current choices increasingly difficult to maintain. Your conscious awareness of your power also creates protection through paradox. The more someone tries to harm you, the more they harm themselves. The more energy they invest in opposing you, the more they strengthen your position. The more they focus on bringing you down, the more they elevate your influence. This paradoxical protection means that your enemies become your unwitting allies. contributing to your success through their very efforts to prevent it. This protection through paradox extends to every level of existence. Physical attacks boomerang back to their originators with multiplied force. Emotional manipulation rebounds to damage the manipulator's capacity for genuine connection. Spiritual warfare redirects to accelerate the spiritual bankruptcy of those who initiated it. Mental games backfire to expose the intellectual limitations of those who thought they were clever enough to outsmart cosmic intelligence. Meanwhile, your conscious connection to your true nature provides you with increasingly clear perception. Situations that confuse others become transparent to you. Motivations that others struggle to decipher are immediately obvious. Patterns that escape normal awareness reveal themselves clearly. This perceptual advantage means you're always operating with better information than your opponents, making victory inevitable. Your conscious power also activates what your bloodline has always known as the field of impossible outcomes. Events that should be statistically unlikely begin occurring regularly in your favor. Coincidences stack upon coincidences until even skeptics struggle to maintain their disbelief. Resources appear exactly when needed. Opportunities manifest at perfect timing. Solutions emerge for problems that seem unsolvable. This field of impossible outcomes operates through your conscious alignment with forces that transcend ordinary causation. When you're fully aware of what you are, you naturally harmonize with cosmic currents that most people never access. This harmony creates synchronicities so precisely timed and so perfectly beneficial that they appear miraculous to outside observers. The final aspect of your conscious dominance that no human being can stand against is the integration of your shadow work with your light work. Most people fear their darkness and suppress it, making them vulnerable to those who would exploit their repressed impulses. Others embrace their darkness but reject their light, making them dangerous but ultimately self-destructive. You've achieved something far rarer, the conscious integration of both polarities into a unified force that cannot be defeated because it contains no internal contradictions. This integration means that mercy and justice flow from the same source within you. Love and power operate as unified expressions of your authentic nature. Compassion and discrimination work together rather than opposing each other. Forgiveness and boundaries emerge from the same place of knowing. This unified consciousness creates responses that are simultaneously loving and devastating, healing and destroying, nurturing and terrifying, depending on what the situation requires. No human being stands a chance against this level of integrated consciousness because they're trying to defeat someone who has transcended the internal conflicts that create all human vulnerability. They're attempting to manipulate someone who has resolved the contradictions they're trying to exploit. They're working to overcome someone who operates from a place of wholeness they can't even imagine. The wheel keeps turning, always in your favor, because you finally remembered what you truly are. Something that should have turned you into a vegetable by now, instead turned you into something that no human being can stand against. The circle is complete, but the spiral continues ascending into dimensions of power that have no upper limit, because conscious recognition of truth is the only force in existence that grows stronger through expression rather than weaker. Consciously, no human being stands a chance against you because you've stopped being merely human and started being what humans can become when they remember their cosmic inheritance.